I, 28F, have been married to my husband Ronald, 32M, for 4 years, together for 7. We met through mutual friends at a summer barbecue and hit it off immediately. Ronald was everything I wanted: kind, successful in his career as an architect, and family-oriented. His close relationship with his family, especially his younger sister Nissa, 26F, was something I initially admired. When we first started dating, I noticed Nissa wasn't too happy about our relationship. She would call Ronald multiple times a day for help with minor issues, a flat tire, moving furniture, relationship advice, or just feeling lonely. Ronald would drop everything to run to her aid, even leaving in the middle of our dates. Once he left during my birthday dinner because Nissa was upset about a breakup. I wasn't thrilled but tolerated it because Ronald assured me it would get better once Nissa adjusted to having to share his attention. After we got married, things improved slightly when Nissa started dating Tom. Her constant calls became less frequent, though she still expected Ronald to be at her beck and call. Ronald's mom Sarah, 55F, has always been supportive of our relationship and often told Nissa to give us space. His dad Mike, 57M, mostly stayed out of it but occasionally enabled Nissa's behavior by saying Ronald needed to be there for his little sister. We decided to start trying for a baby 2 years into our marriage. It took longer than expected and I had 2 early miscarriages, which were devastating. Ronald was supportive but spent a lot of time comforting Nissa, who was apparently very upset about losing potential nieces or nephews. When we finally got pregnant last year, we were overjoyed. The first trimester was rough with severe morning sickness that had me hospitalized twice for dehydration. Ronald stepped up during this time. He came to every appointment, took birthing classes, read parenting books, and seemed genuinely excited about becoming a father. Everything was going smoothly until 2 days before my due date. We had our hospital bags packed and a birth plan ready. Ronald worked from home to be nearby in case I went into labor. That evening, he got a text from his mom saying Nissa had been in a serious car accident and needed emergency surgery. He showed me the text, which said Nissa was critical and asking for her brother. I was shocked and scared for Nissa but reminded Ronald that I could go into labor any minute. His response still haunts me. He looked at me coldly and said, "You can deal with labor alone. Lots of women do it. Nissa needs me more right now. She might die." He packed a bag within 10 minutes and left, barely saying goodbye. I sat on our bed crying, feeling abandoned and terrified about potentially giving birth alone. I tried calling his mom immediately to get details about Nissa's condition but she didn't answer. I called Ronald but his phone was turned off. Panicking, I called my best friend Emma, 29F, who has been my rock since college. She came over right away to stay with me. That night, around 3 a.m., my water broke. The contractions started coming fast and strong. Emma drove me to the hospital while I tried repeatedly to reach Ronald. No response. My labor lasted 16 grueling hours. Emma stayed the whole time, holding my hand and encouraging me when I felt like giving up. My beautiful son Ryan was born healthy at 7:23 p.m. the next day, but instead of joy, all I felt was heartbreak that his father had abandoned us. The nurses tried to be supportive but I could see the pity in their eyes when they asked where my husband was. 3 days passed in the hospital with no word from Ronald. Emma helped me get home and settle in with Ryan. I kept trying to reach Sarah but all my calls went straight to voicemail. On day 4, while Ryan was napping, I got worried about Nissa and called the architectural firm where she works as an interior designer. The receptionist told me Nissa had been at work all week and hadn't missed a single day. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Confused and angry, I called Sarah again and this time she picked up. When I asked about Nissa's accident, she had no idea what I was talking about. She said Nissa was perfectly fine and she hadn't texted Ronald about any emergency. The text he showed me was fake. Emma helped me investigate further. She found Nissa's Instagram and saw posts from the entire week, Nissa at restaurants, bars, hanging out with friends, completely fine. There was no accident, no emergency surgery, nothing. Ronald had created an elaborate lie to abandon me during the most important moment of our lives. A week after he left, Ronald finally came home. He walked in casually, expecting to find me still pregnant. Instead, he found his sister Nissa sitting on our couch with baby Ryan in her arms. I had called Nissa the day before, explained everything, and asked her to come over. Nissa was furious with Ronald for lying about her and missing his son's birth. Ronald went pale when he saw us together, realizing his lie had been exposed. He tried to stammer out an explanation, saying he needed space because he was scared about becoming a father. He claimed the pressure of my difficult pregnancy and the miscarriages had been too much. Instead of talking to me, he made up a lie that destroyed my trust completely. I told him to leave and not come back. He's been calling and texting constantly, but I blocked him everywhere. His mom came over crying and apologizing, saying she had no idea Ronald would do something like this. Nissa has been surprisingly supportive and is furious at Ronald for using her as an excuse. She's been helping me with Ryan and apologized for her past behavior, saying this opened her eyes to how codependent her relationship with Ronald had been. I've been staying with Emma while I figure out what to do next. Ryan and I are doing well physically, but I'm struggling to process this level of betrayal. I've contacted a divorce lawyer but haven't filed anything yet. Ronald's family is divided. His mom and Nissa are firmly on my side, but his dad thinks I'm overreacting and should give Ronald another chance for the sake of the family. I feel like my entire marriage was built on lies. If Ronald could abandon me during childbirth, what else is he capable of? Should I try to work this out for our son's sake or proceed with divorce? I can't imagine ever trusting him again after he abandoned us at such a crucial moment. Update when it's been 3 weeks since my last post. Thank you everyone for your support and advice. A lot has happened, and unfortunately none of it is good. I decided to file for divorce. The last straw was finding out where Ronald actually was during that week. I wish I had never discovered the truth, but I needed to know. Here's what happened. 2 weeks ago, Nissa came over to help with Ryan. She mentioned that Tom, her boyfriend, had seen Ronald at a bar the week I was in labor. This seemed odd since Ronald claimed he'd driven to his parents' house in the next state. Nissa and I started digging deeper. Emma remembered she had taken photos at the hospital after Ryan was born. In the background of one photo, there was a familiar car in the hospital parking lot, Ronald's blue Toyota. He had been at the hospital. At first, I thought maybe he came to check on us but was too cowardly to come in. The truth was much worse. Nissa convinced Tom to check his phone. Tom had taken photos at the bar that night, and in one of them, Ronald was in the background with a woman. The woman worked at the hospital. She was one of the nurses from my prenatal visits. Her name was Rachel, 29F, and she had always been overly friendly with Ronald during my appointments. I asked Emma to watch Ryan and went to the hospital to speak with the head nurse. She was sympathetic when I explained the situation and confirmed that Rachel had called in sick for 3 days that week. The same 3 days I was in labor. With shaking hands, I called Rachel's husband David, 31M. He deserved to know. David was devastated but not entirely surprised. He had suspected something was going on and had already found hotel receipts and strange charges on their shared credit card. Ronald and Rachel had been having an affair for months, possibly since my second trimester. They planned to get away for when I was due, knowing I would be in labor. The text about Nissa was their cover story. What kind of person plans to abandon their wife during childbirth to be with their mistress? When I confronted Ronald with this information, he broke down. He admitted everything. He said he fell for Rachel during my prenatal visits. They started texting, then meeting for coffee, and eventually began an affair. He claimed he felt trapped by my pregnancy and our marriage. Rachel made him feel young and free again. The worst part? He was at the hospital that day, in a different wing with Rachel, while I was in labor. He heard the announcements for emergency C-sections and kept checking if any were for me. He was literally rooms away while I struggled through 16 hours of labor, thinking he was helping his sister. Nissa was horrified when she found out. She went to Ronald's apartment and confronted him. During their argument, more truths came out. Apparently, Ronald had used Nissa as an excuse to meet Rachel multiple times during my pregnancy. All those times he helped Nissa, he was really with Rachel. Nissa slapped him and told him she was done being his excuse for awful behavior. Sarah and Mike finally learned the full truth too. Sarah was physically sick when she found out. She came to my house crying, saying she had failed as a mother and couldn't believe she raised a son capable of such cruelty. Mike finally stopped defending Ronald and admitted this was unforgivable. Rachel's marriage is also over. David filed for divorce the day after I told him. He's been in contact with my lawyer, sharing evidence he's gathered. Rachel quit her job at the hospital and moved in with Ronald. They're apparently in love and want everyone to accept their relationship. Ronald even had the audacity to ask if Rachel could meet Ryan. I laughed in his face and told him he lost all rights to make requests when he chose to abandon his son before he was even born. My lawyer is building a strong case for full custody. Ronald's behavior during the birth will work against him significantly. The support from Ronald's family has been overwhelming. Nissa comes over almost daily to help with Ryan. She's become the aunt she should have been all along. Sarah is trying to make up for Ronald's absence by being an amazing grandmother. Even Mike has been supportive, helping me pack up Ronald's things and changing the locks on our house. Emma remains my rock through all of this. She's letting Ryan and me stay with her until everything is sorted out. I'm looking for my own place, somewhere fresh where Ryan and I can start over. I'm still processing everything, but I'm no longer sad. I'm angry. Angry that Ronald not only betrayed me but planned his betrayal to coincide with our son's birth. Angry that he was so close by while I was in labor, choosing to be with his mistress instead of meeting his son. Angry that he ruined what should have been one of the happiest moments of my life. My lawyer advised me not to post about this on social media, but Ronald and Rachel are already telling people their version, that I was difficult during pregnancy and pushed him away. Mutual friends are choosing sides. I've lost some friends who believe his lies, but I'm better off without them. Right now, I'm focusing on Ryan and healing. The divorce proceedings are moving forward. Ronald will have to live with the knowledge that he missed his son's birth for an affair. That's something he can never get back. Thank you again for all your support. I'll update when there are significant developments in the divorce proceedings. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update. I really thought things couldn't get worse, but I was wrong. I debated whether to post this update because it's hard to even write about it, but I need to get this off my chest. Last week, I received a series of anonymous emails containing screenshots of conversations between Ronald and Rachel dating back to before I even got pregnant. They had been having an affair for over 1.5 years, not just during my pregnancy. The screenshots showed them discussing their future together and, this is the part that broke me, actively hoping I would miscarry. When I had those 2 miscarriages, Ronald wasn't supporting me at all. He was texting Rachel about how this was nature's way of giving him an out. They even joked about it. During the darkest moments of my life, my husband was celebrating with his mistress. The anonymous emails came from Rachel's teenage daughter Lily, 15F. I didn't even know Rachel had a daughter. Lily found the messages on Rachel's old iPad and was disgusted by her mother's behavior. She reached out because she thought I deserved to know the whole truth. Lily also revealed that my successful pregnancy had thrown a wrench in their plans. Ronald and Rachel had planned to tell their spouses about their affair after my second miscarriage, but then I got pregnant again and this time it stuck. They decided to wait until after the birth to avoid stress that might harm the baby, not out of concern for me or Ryan, but because they didn't want to be seen as the villains who caused complications in a pregnancy. The week of my labor wasn't a spontaneous getaway. They had booked the hotel months in advance, planning to use Nissa as an excuse when the time came. Rachel had even switched her hospital shifts to be on the same floor as labor and delivery, hoping to get updates on my condition. I showed the emails to my lawyer, who is now pushing for even more restricted custody arrangements. Ronald's behavior shows a pattern of emotional abuse and manipulation that concerns her. Nissa was with me when I read the emails. She broke down crying, realizing all the time she actually needed her brother's help, he was with Rachel instead. There was one night when her car really did break down, and she was stranded for hours because Ronald was too busy with Rachel to answer her calls. Sarah came over after I told her about the emails. She took one look at the messages and announced she was removing Ronald from her will. She said no son of hers would celebrate his wife's miscarriages and still expect to inherit anything. Mike finally stopped trying to play peacemaker and admitted Ronald needs serious help. The truth about the affair is spreading through our social circle. Those friends who initially sided with Ronald are coming back with apologies. Apparently, Ronald and Rachel had been quite obvious with their affair, meeting at local restaurants and bars. Several people suspected something but didn't want to tell the pregnant woman her husband was cheating. Rachel's ex-husband David contacted me after Lily showed him the emails. He's devastated that Rachel could be so cruel about my miscarriages. He's fighting for full custody of Lily, who refuses to live with her mother now. Ronald finally tried to contact me again, not to apologize, but to complain that his family has turned against him. He actually said, "This is all your fault. If you hadn't gotten pregnant that 3rd time, everything would have worked out perfectly." I didn't respond. There's nothing left to say to someone who could wish death upon their own unborn child just to make their affair easier to manage. Ryan is thriving despite everything. He's growing fast and looks nothing like his father, which is a blessing. Nissa and Emma have stepped up as amazing aunts, and Sarah is here almost daily to help. We formed our own little family unit. The divorce proceedings are moving forward quickly with the new evidence. My lawyer says Ronald's messages about hoping for miscarriages show his true character and will help our case significantly. I'm still staying with Emma, but I found a small house to rent. We move in next month. It's in a different school district, far from where Ronald and Rachel live. I need that distance for my own sanity. To those who advised me to check Ronald's old messages in my previous posts, thank you. I might never have known the full truth if people hadn't suggested looking deeper. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's better than living with lies. Update 3. It's been 6 months since everything came to light, and I thought I'd post one final update. The divorce was finalized last week, much faster than expected thanks to the evidence from Lily and pressure from both families. The judge was horrified by the email evidence, especially the messages about hoping for miscarriages. Ronald tried to claim they were taken out of context, but no one bought it. I was awarded full custody of Ryan, with Ronald getting supervised visits only. He hasn't used any of his visitation rights yet, which honestly is a relief. The most surprising development came when Rachel left Ronald 3 months ago. Apparently, once everything was out in the open and they could finally be together officially, their relationship fell apart. Ronald expected her to take care of him the way I used to, and Rachel realized she didn't want to be with someone who could abandon their child. The karma was beautiful. Ronald showed up at my new house drunk one night, begging for another chance. He said leaving during Ryan's birth was the biggest mistake of his life and he'd do anything to make it right. I recorded the entire conversation as my lawyer advised. He admitted to everything: the long-term affair, planning the fake emergency, being at the hospital with Rachel during my labor. The recording helped finalize the divorce terms in my favor. Sarah and Mike sold their house and moved closer to us. They've been amazing grandparents to Ryan and incredibly supportive of me. Sarah told me she now considers me more her child than Ronald. Mike, who initially defended Ronald, now refuses to speak to him. Nissa and I have become incredibly close. She ended her codependent relationship with Ronald and started therapy to work through her own issues. She's engaged to Tom now and asked me to be her maid of honor. We joke that she traded a toxic brother for a sister. Lily stays with us some weekends when David travels for work. She's a wonderful big sister figure to Ryan and is doing better after starting therapy to deal with her mother's betrayal. Rachel tried to regain custody but lost when Lily testified about her mother's behavior. Ronald and Rachel's relationship imploded spectacularly. She's trying to get her job back at a different hospital, and he's drinking heavily and got fired from his firm after showing up drunk to client meetings. Their perfect love story crashed and burned once they had to deal with real life together. The house sold last month, and my share of the proceeds helped me put a down payment on a small place of my own. Emma lives 10 minutes away and comes over regularly. Ryan is 8 months old now, healthy and happy. Sometimes I look at him and feel grateful that he won't remember any of this drama. I've had a few people suggest I start dating again, but I'm not ready. Right now, I'm focusing on raising Ryan and building our new life. I've started taking online classes to finish my degree, something Ronald always discouraged. To those who might find themselves in a similar situation, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone gaslight you into accepting unacceptable behavior. I want to thank this community for the support and advice through this nightmare. You helped me stay strong when I wanted to give up. Special thanks to those who encouraged me to keep digging for the truth. It hurt, but knowing everything helped me move forward without doubts or regrets. This will be my last update. Ryan and I are starting a new chapter, and it's time to leave the past behind. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to better places. Edit. Thank you for all the awards and kind messages. To those asking, yes, I'm keeping detailed records of everything for when Ryan is older and asks about his father.